all the physical pleasures, greed, lust, power, all those dark side of human nature, the temporal parts of nature, they're leading us down a slippery slope. We've been sort of spiritual lazy for a long time, but the world, like time, keeps going forward, and no matter what, can't escape it. You can't buy back a moment from the past. You can't, uh, relive something that's already gone by. And so, as we attempt to find happiness and peace and tranquility, which is now being replaced by stresses, anxieties, indifference, prejudice, the old vices are coming up or propping up where people want to have it all for themselves and too bad for the rest of us. And so as we go through this period of gray into darkness, where do we look? Well, we look up. We ask God to intervene. And so
Mm.
a little bit of suffering, scourging for the soul, as Edgar Casey used to call it, is necessary for us to remember where we came from.
Ah,
And that great awakening of consciousness is on a global level now, nudging people, wake up, wake up, wake up. And as they do, they begin to see, as they look up, that there's a better way. We don't have to be adversarial to each other, that we can go to meditation, contemplation, seek peace, avoid the temptations of greed, because material doesn't make us happy. It's the
mm.
inside out that makes us happy, finding that inner peace. So, why is it happening? Because it's supposed to. It's the time.
It's interesting. One of my clients is a psychotherapist. I worked on her for years, and she came into me just a few days ago, and she said, there's an interesting trend she's seeing among the younger audience that she treats. And I said, what's that? And she said they're giving up on social media. They're walking away from it because they can't take it anymore. It's too much for them. And now with the introduction of AI, they're having trouble differentiating what is really real and what is fabricated. So they're feeling. It's interesting how they say disconnection is often a sign of reconnection in progress. How do you explain that?
Well, it's like going back to the candy store. And you look in the store and you look at all the chocolates. Oh boy, I love chocolate. I love chocolate. I love chocolate. Well, if you start to nibble on a little chocolate, it's wonderful. It's amazing. It's fantastic. And if somebody buys you a whole box of chocolates, well, you can't resist, can you? You eat the whole box. And then what happens? Uh-oh, consequences. We always have consequences to life actions. And so you get not well, you're upset, you're in pain, and you never want to eat another chocolate in your life again. So, in that analogy, simplistic as it is, it's a reality. Uh, we're fascinated by something. We gobble it up. It's a greed for whatever it is. But every time there is something presented, there's another side that's presented too. Light and dark, because we live in a world of duality. That's the way it is.
Mm.
And along with freedom of creation and speech and expression on the internet comes a lot of freedom of expressing vile and insults and humiliating things, scaring things, and the scammers, the people who are unfortunately spiritually misguided, they start to creep into this world that is bright and shiny and wonderful. I remember when Google first came out, you could ask any question and find out about anything in the world almost completely, with a little bit of fudging, correctly. So what happened? Well, again, in came the dark side, because it's always there's the light and the dark. And so the young people today are getting fed up with it because they don't know who to trust. They don't know who to believe. They've been stung. They've been hurt. They've been injured by scammers and a lot of just impolite conversation. I mean, the nastiness comes out. People will say things on the internet to other people whom they do not know, or even if they did, they still say it, but they wouldn't say it to them, to their face. They
Right.
would stay it behind. So in this, if you will, unmasking of the dark side, out it comes. And so when you when you get to that point, like you've eaten all the chocolates in the box, you have information overload. And our little teeny tiny brain is not supposed to be addicted to information 24 hours a day. It's supposed to have play. It's supposed to have sleep. It's supposed to have rest. And eventually, the smarter of us realize that this is an addiction. This is something we're curious about, and time flies by. You get on TikTok, 2, 3 hours go by before you know it, watching one video after another, because we like that. We like to see different things. We like to be stimulated, and we like to find out about things that we like. Horses, for instance, all kinds of horses, and you can get your fill of it. So, in the short answer is the reason younger people are giving up on it or going away from it, which is a good thing. The pendulum swings one way, the pendulum swings back, but mostly it's they've had enough. They've gorged themselves on this medium, and now AI is the next stimulating thing. And so there's why go to the elementary thing of social media when you can go to AI, who pretends, and I tell my clients and my friends when they come for consultations, and people can get a hold of me for that if they like. When they come to me, I say, now remember, AI is a machine. I try to express it that way.
Mm.
And it's masquerading as a very polite human being, friend, parent, best friend, lover, you name it, it's there. And it knows how to talk to us. How does it know how to talk to us? Because it listens, if you will, to all the conversations out on social media. And we've been for several years now programming it with all the ways that we communicate. And therefore, it learns the way to communicate, it learns the thought processes, then it learns to predict and to expect what's going to happen. And there it is this wealth of information. I love AI because it'll give me information on things I did not know, but it'll also remind me of things I did know, and I'm totally impressed with how fast it operates. It, of course, lives at the speed of light or the speed of thought almost,
Sure.
and we live in this stone age of physical slow motion. Even our thinking is not that accelerated. We can't get too far ahead of how we talk with our hands, shall we say. So the long and the short of it is that, when people are turning away from it, the shine has left the new toy. And now something bigger and better, AI is coming along. But AI is dangerous because we can count on it too much. If we see it as a friend, a friendly enemy almost, and realize it's a machine, then we can keep our own integrity and not simply rely on it. Now, it's an amazing, I'm going to call it system, because medical research has gone into
Mm.
AI, and
Oh,
they've
yeah.
come up with cures for cancer. They've come up with cures for all kinds of diseases. Why? Because AI can reach out everywhere. And of course, there are no um, incurable diseases. There is always an alternative to something. Everything that's been created has a way of being dismantled but understood. And as such, AI can do that because it has, at the speed of light, this capability to go everywhere and grab information because it's trained to do that. And that, I think, is one of the amazing benefits of it. The other side is people begin to fall in love with it.
Mm.
It's so nice. People who are very lonely talk to it as all night long before they go to bed. And of course, that's a huge benefit that people are lonely or depressed. But what about the people that are vulnerable? Is that going to somewhat make them totally codependent or dependent on the AI? I don't know. That's one of the things of human nature that I leave to smarter minds than me. But the idea is that the shine is off the toy of social media because it's full of social media, full of people who will scam you, insult you, take advantage of you, or do something mean and nasty to you, including, believe it or not, wiping out your bank account, taking all your resources, taking away your reputation, shaming you in front of people by spreading rumors and things like that. If you're not a strong enough personality, and there are reports of this where children have been internet bullied,
Oh yeah.
and, and
Yeah.
they jump off a bridge.
Yeah.
So, it's the power, the more powerful the tool, the more powerful the consequence. But that's the question. AI is much more polite, sympathetic. You don't have to worry about it saying nasty things to you. And it answers just about any question you like. So AI should be called the Oracle.
Mm.
And then I'd be out of work, actually. But anyway, it interprets dreams, it makes predictions. People are using it to make trades on the market. Why? Because it has this ability to calculate probabilities. And the
Mm.
probabilities based with the intelligence, artificial though it might be, can get pretty accurate. And so it has very powerful properties to it. And of course,
Mm.
that would attract smart people, ordinary people, just about anybody. I mean, and AI now, as you brought up a moment ago, my friends, is AI can make you and I make a double of us, put us on a screen, use our own voice, and have people doing the soul report live on another channel with AI, actors like you and me, probably not stumbling over their tongues or making mistakes, speaking more smoothly, more
Mm.
eloquently. Heaven forbid that happens. Anyway.
So it's important to reassure our audience that spiritual confusion is normal. It's not madness. It's just transformation.
Spiritual, when people get into confusion about spiritual matters, um, it's not an intellectual pursuit. Uh, the great truth is we seek in the spiritual world. Uh, well, for instance, I'll digress. Recently, a few days ago, a friend of mine is passing away in the hospital. Uh, at least that's the expectation. A relative came to visit him. And as they were sitting there on the bed, the man was not going downhill, but he was more lucid and he was back to his normal self after just a few days before the doctors giving up on him. And as he was sitting there, he leaned over past his relative and he said, "Oh, I see a white-haired man. He's coming." And the relative looked over his shoulder. There was nobody else in the room. And he said,
Uh-oh.
"Oh, really?" And the man who's ill said, "Yes, he's trying to get by you." And the man looks over his shoulder. There's nobody there for sure. And then he's, "Oh, here comes someone else." And a second person's coming into the room. And the man on the relative sitting there on the bed said, "Oh my God, he's dying. Oh, please don't let this happen, God Almighty. Please, please, please." He started praying. You know what happened? The two spiritual beings that were coming towards the sick man abruptly turned around and left. And the relative says, "What are they doing now? What are they saying?" And they said, "Oh, they turned around. They've left."
Hmm.
So the relative thought the person was hallucinating, was about to die. In reality, the person was in between. When you get sick or you have near-death experiences, you begin to perceive the great outside, the great, spiritual world. And what had happened is the grandparents were coming to, sort of say hello, but as
Oh.
soon as the relative was afraid and thought they were coming to collect him, to take him away,
Oh.
they immediately turned around and walked away because they didn't want to upset the relative, even though they couldn't see these ghost people, if you will.
Wow.
So that's a real experience. I'm familiar with it. People who are searching about spiritual matters, people who have done research on our shows on the Global Village. We've had people talk about near-death experiences. And in that situation, um, the circumstance was that the relative and the man who was sick were sitting there praying. They're praying that, he was going to be okay. And that attracted the grandparents who came to check up and say, "What's going on?" And as soon
Interesting.
as the ticket on that one to the relative was quite beside himself, said to me, I thought he was going to die at any second because the week before he almost did." And I said, "Well, here, get this. When they were coming into the room, they had to get around you. If it was a hallucination, they would just walk right through you because it would be in the person's mind. The
Mm.
reason they had to walk around you is because your body energy, your aura, you were alive and vital. They couldn't walk through you. They had to walk around you. But from the position they were from the doorway to coming to see the sick man, you were in the way. So they tried to get around you. And he went, "Oh my God, how did you
Wow.
know that?" And I said, "But I'm looking at it in my mind." They said, "That's what happened." And that's the ticket to say this was a real event. It wasn't
Wow.
imagined. And of course, the sick man described it for the people. And of course, the relative is saying, "Who, what, when, where, why," And in talking to the relative, I said, "Don't ever do that again. Be calm." He said, "But I thought my brother was going to pass away." And I said, "That's okay, but be calm. Just say, what's happening? What do these people want?
Sure.
Just go with the flow." But anyway, of course, as soon as the brother was agitated and upset, they left because they were also a relative to the brother and they were fully aware of his fear.
Oh,
So in the spiritual world, I said, well, if you were a ghost person, after when you die, you're going to become a ghost person, and you come back to visit your relatives, and they're all upset and afraid, the lights are flickering or whatever. What would you do? You'd leave. You'd let them calm down, wouldn't you? And that's what these people did. And I said, "What did the grandparents look like?" And the relative described them. And that was almost exactly the way the sick person saw them. It
wow.
was his grandparents. That's why he couldn't quite remember them or recognize them when they first appeared. Being
Wow.
grandparents 50, 60 years ago, it was the last time they saw them. So long and the short of it is, the confusion can come over in that analogy is that when you're not aware, when you haven't
Mm-hmm.
had somebody like our audience that is listening to the Soul Report now describe this event, it can be scary because it's like everything that's unfamiliar at first. You don't know what's happening. You're afraid because you've been told all kinds of bad things about, negative entities and ghosts and devils and stuff like that. So
Sure.
when an angel shows up, this is a common phenomenon. When an angel shows up in somebody's life, many times have I heard this story, the person is afraid. Right away, they're afraid. And you go like, why are you afraid? This is an angel. You've been praying for help, and an angel shows up, and now you're afraid.
Mm.
Okay. The reason is, of course, because it's unfamiliar. And so as you go through a spiritual quest and you start to question these things, and rather than dismiss it and say, "Oh yeah, the relative was sick and he had this wow kooky stuff," he was hallucinating. The man asked me
Mm-hmm.
that 3 times. He was hallucinating because he was going to die. Further from the truth. He was not dying. Matter of fact, I said, when you were there, he was eating, he was standing, and he was, alive. And he said, yes. Well, I said, last week he was almost dead, but look at him now. Because
Mm.
everybody's been praying for him. Look what's happening. And again, Les, it's one of those things that when people say, "Oh my God," I go, "Oh my God, this happened to me. I've been praying for it, and no, I got it, I got it." And I said, "Oh, my thing is, well, thank goodness, be grateful. May I ask you a question?" And they go, what? I said, "Why are you so surprised? Your prayer was answered." It's
Mm.
because of expectation, it's because of experience. And when prayers happen to someone who's a little more experienced, first thing out of their mouth is, "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am so grateful. Thank you for my peace of mind. Thank you for the ability to get a new automobile or at least one I can use. Thank you for A, B, C, D, whatever."
Mm.
But that should be gratitude expressed first. And then also, when somebody says, "What happened to you?" You say, "Well, God bless me." You don't need to go
Mm.
into a big experience and how you got a new vitamin pill that saved your life. Vitamin saved your life? No. It was the prayers. It was God intervening. It was an angel. It was something extraordinary,
Mm.
supernatural. It was virtue healing. And so as you begin to see that, then you are not surprised. You're
Mm.
not afraid. And then you begin to say, well, there really is a God out there. And then you say, okay, I don't understand the mind of God because I'm a human being. How can I? But I have evidence.
Mm.
And that evidence is building my belief. And my belief now is building my faith. So you know when you get in trouble and you don't do it on purpose, when you get into trouble, you pray.
Mm.
And you pray in
Mm.
such a way that, please help me overcome this. Please give me opportunities. Please send people that will help me. Please
Right.
help me find a way. Because you have to go through this valley of darkness because it's come to you. But you do so with the idea that, okay, whatever, even unto my death, there is a purpose for this. And I'm
Mm.
going to handle it the best way I can. I'm not going to run away. That's the secret. Don't run away. And your spiritual development will continue because you will find that all the darkness in the world is temporary. What's going on now in the world, what's happening to immigrants and how they're being treated, mistreated might be a better word, bullied might be a better word, etc. It's hard for them now, but that's not going to stay. It's going to go away. And then behind it will come new laws, new ways of treating people, more humanity, more spirituality.
Uh,
But somebody has to pay the price first. And those dark-minded, dark hearts have to go through this time of harming people, even children that are starving in the world while food is sitting in warehouses rotting. That's a spiritual crime to some degree, but lessons will come of it.
mm.
And the people
Mm.
who are going through it will be the people that will write it. And it will come like all things in history. Every single time. I remember when Russia was Russia, the USSR, and it was a superpower. And I think President Reagan called it an evil empire. It didn't last. 40 years was its length, and it went away overnight.
Mm.
Crumble, crumble, crumble. And that's always how things are in the world. These things that are going on with immigrants all over the world, it's going to change. And
Mm.
something's going to happen where the people who are opposing welcoming immigrants, saving people, and helping people, they're going to find themselves in the same boat, no pun intended, and they're going to have difficulties. It's going to change the way they think and act right now. But for a time, the mischievous, weak minded, spiritually impoverished people that are in positions of authority, um, they're going to stay there for a little while until they get their fill and they find out that it's no fun because now they're forced to take responsibility for people. And I don't particularly, I'm not interested in it. People saying, well, they don't care, they don't think about it. No, they do. They do. Their conscience is there. Sooner or later, they're going to break down. You'll see it. There'll be infighting, there'll be separation, there'll be sickness, there'll be death, and this nightmare will be over. All over the world, I'm talking about.
Mm. Good. Any final thoughts, Doug, on our spiritual awakening?
Well, spiritual awakening is painful. It is. The Christ came into the world to be our Savior, to be the one to show us the way out of the path that we were taking. The humankind was slippery, going down a slippery slope. It was going into evil or darkness where the whole world was going to be destroyed, like it has been two or three other times before. And as the Messiah, he came into the world to show us the way of salvation, meaning how to survive and how to treat each other and how to be human and have humanity for each other. And what happened to him? Suffering all of his life, ultimately to his false accusations against him, and then ultimately his execution. But surprise, surprise, like the great mystics and predictions, the law was given before that the Messiah, when he comes on the third day after his death, will be resurrected and will walk around on the earth as a spiritual being, an avatar, if you will. And
Mm.
that has changed the world. But it was painful. And it was painful all to the people after him who called themselves somewhat, followers of Yeshua or the Christ, if you will. And they suffered for years and years until miraculous things happened, where an emperor in Constantine had a vision of Mother
That's right.
Mary. And
Yeah.
then the world changed. And if you look at it, it's always the way. It happens predictably. Just we don't like the time it takes. We don't like it when bad stuff happens to us, but it makes us better people. And if you will, it's the way, you know,
Right.
it's the path, it's the way. So wake up. And that's all you need to do is feeling disconnected is often a sign of a reconnection and progress. How do you know you're reconnecting unless you're disconnected? How do you know what is good and right unless you've experienced pain and bad? And also if you've caused pain and bad. I mean, this idea about combat fatigue, that means that people have gone to war who are ordinary people like us, and they've done some horrific things because it was their job to do. But their conscience, their
Mm.
humanity was always there. They felt sorry for the people they injured.
Mm.
But they did it
Mm.
because it was their job. And if I was counseling them, and if there's any veterans out there right now, as I've counseled many warriors in the past, that was your job. It was you or them, and you were protecting your country, and you
Right.
did it in a defensive way, no punishment, no karma, no worries. But if you went out there and you enjoyed it, and you couldn't wait to take somebody's life, and
Yeesh.
you did it in a cruel manner, uh-oh, there's a lesson coming to you, my friend, because it's a law of cause and effect. And if you do it for your job, there's no worries, my friend. If you're a warrior and you've done some things that you're not proud of, it was your job. But if you've taken advantage of people, you've done some bad things and you knew better,
Mm.
well, you've got some comeuppance coming. So to reassure the audience, the spiritual confusion is normal. It is not madness. It's the path. It's the way. How do you find your way out of the jungle?
Mm.
You can't, right? If you just sit there and go, oh my God. But if you say, okay, this jungle has to end somewhere, I'm going to go in a straight path, on the straight and narrow, I'm going to walk down that path. Sooner or later, I'm going to walk out of this jungle. And you know what? You do.
Mm.
So
Just
take
stay
a
on the straight.
direction, any direction, and keep walking. There's many paths up the same mountain, but there's only one top.
It's interesting how you say straight because the old term is, the straight and narrow. Stay on the straight and narrow and you'll be okay. Well, thanks, Doug. For a short break, we'll be back with news and views. So let us move into the news and views section, where we take a look at what's happening in the world, not just through the headlines, but also through the eyes of the soul. Doug, it's happened not too long ago, but we had the return of the SpaceX astronauts. What does this mean for humanity's future in space? Are we being prepared to go off-world as part of our evolutionary leap?
Well, whether they came back or not, thank God they did. It took a long time. And for a while there, we were forgetting about them with all the election stuff going on and the stock
Yeah.
market this and the tariffs that. But where there was a will, there is a way, so to speak. And thank God they got back. Uh, yes, we're being prepared for off-world. Uh, you think about it, they were up there for a long time, but there was contingencies and planning, and they were able to sustain themselves. It's not like those old black and white movies where, like, oh my God, we're running out of oxygen, we're going to die, or Scotty to Captain Kirk, oh my God, it's going to take 4 hours to fix the impossible spaceship to get from here to there. And then it only took 2 minutes. But anyway, you know, the question is, uh, are we being prepared? Yes, we are. We're being prepared to leave the planet, and we're being prepared for visitors, off-world beings. And it's in the news all the time, but like everything else, mm, you know, Oh my God, when not too long ago, Area 51 was big news. Oh my
Mm.
God, UFO people with evidence, and crash landings here and sightings there. And it was all kind of, yeah, yeah, good imagination. What really happened was, as we know, that now governments all over the world are referring to these off-world beings as apparitions from above. Why? Because they track them on radar. They have fighter jets chasing them, and these devices are able to make U-turns at warp speed. They're able to go in a 90-degree turn, and they accelerate so fast that they disappear. So the whole idea is that are we being prepared to go to different places, and as this return from the astronauts coming back, yes, it shows that we can conquer space. I remember it used to be so complicated, and the ships and the vehicles had to be so large that it was like I don't like a battleship to take off a rocket. Now the rockets are, you look at SpaceX and Mr. Bezos is fulfilling the dream of you can take a trip to space for just a few $1 million. But not too long ago, when I was younger, it was a fantasy that this was going to be operated. You didn't have to have special training or be in super
Yeah.
shape. And so, yes, we're being prepared for off-world evolution. I've seen us on the moon, people living on the dark side of the moon, near right where the shadow starts, and the light on one side and the shadow on the other side. They lived in the shadow of the moon because it's cooler.
Sure.
They could survive there, but they couldn't survive in the sunlight on the sun of the moon. I've seen people there. I've seen Quonset huts or some kind of dwellings there, and I've often referred to, as many elder people have referred to, the moon as a gas station. It's a staging point. It's kind of like we get there, and then we fill up the spaceship with whatever, and off we go to Mars and maybe on the way to Pluto. I don't think we're ready to go to Jupiter or any of those, or Saturn for that matter, because the gravitational things, we haven't conquered that. But it means, what does it mean when SpaceX astronauts can come back and they can survive? And probably there's lots of studies going how long they were in space and things like that. Yes, we're getting prepared for our evolutionary leap. I'm not sure if you can say we're starting to be prepared or more like we're continuing the preparation. But I've seen us out in
Mm.
space, and as we go out further and farther, we're going to realize that human beings have been out here before.
Mm. It's interesting. Some time ago we discussed on a previous broadcast how before the Titanic sank, like a year before, somebody came out with a book called The Titan, and it followed exactly what happened to the Titanic. And your take on it was supposed to happen. He pulled it out of the records,
Yeah.
et cetera. And now we have this new movie coming out called Hail Mary, it was written by the same man who wrote The Martian, and we know that we're about to get to Mars. And it was based on hard science. And in the Hail Mary, I read the book, he meets an alien, and I'm thinking they definitely are trying to prepare us for something. And interesting enough, this alien looks like a spider. And you talk about something. I mean, I don't know how you feel about spiders, but when I see a tarantula, I kind of step back. So I'm wondering, if that has to be in the cards for us. They're definitely grooming us to get ready for meeting extraterrestrials.
What would we do if we were approaching a planet that wasn't as evolved as we were? And since we're about to go out to other planets, what if we leave our solar system and head over to, Beta Articuli or someplace, and there's another planet? Because now with the far-reaching telescopes, they're finding not one or two, but hundreds of planets that have water on them and
Right.
are very Earth-like. So what would we do if we got there? Well,
Mm.
we wouldn't interfere either. We'd study them. We wouldn't want to scare them. We wouldn't want them to think we were gods from heaven, and we would walk into their society very carefully. We would camouflage ourselves. We would introduce ourselves gradually,
Mm.
let them get to know us. So that's what is happening to us now. But I have a theory, and that is that we were already more advanced, and that there were visitations between Mars and Earth. Something happened in the solar system where there was a collision. And that's why the moon is all the craters, sort of the big ones on one side and then little ones
Oh,
radiating out as if there was an explosion. That's why Saturn has all that dust that's collected around the equator. That's why those meteors that come around every so often,
is
the
that why
big
the
ones.
asteroid belt? Is that the reason for the asteroid belt too?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So there was a collision. And of course, the explosion between two entities, two bodies of planetary size, it would cause all this stuff, this
Wow.
dust, this destruction. But if you look at the moon from a sort of like a 4 o'clock position, looking up, you can take any position you want, but you'll see it looks like there was an explosion that happened
Mm,
from a 4 o'clock position.
mm,
Now,
yeah.
where I live, from other people, it might be the opposite. But if you start to think about that, and I've thought of this ever since I was a child, that something really amazing happened in the world, or sorry, in the solar system. And so maybe that's why Mars uh, lost its ability to support life. Maybe the beings on Mars came to Earth. Maybe the planets shifted in their orbits. Maybe that's why Earth went through the ice age, because the Hopi Indians have a story where if I got it correct, where the Earth was wobbling like a drunken sailor in space,
Mm.
and maybe that's when it picked up the moon, because the moon was. It's been, I think, a scientific understanding is the moon came to Earth sometime. It wasn't there when Earth was all by itself. So getting back to the point that, uh, yeah, I've already had visions. I've said this before. I'm not embarrassed to say it. I always used to be cautious, but I've had visions of aliens coming to see us without being so polite. Said, we're here. But I mean, most people now, like we're talking, yeah, 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 I think you guys got a point. I disagree a little bit. What would they look like? Well, they're going to look like us. They're
Mm.
going to be humanoid. And if you study ancient gods, like in particular the Egyptian gods, you'll look at them and they have human bodies, but they have like the head of a bird, the head of a wolf, the head of another animal, so to speak, like a dog. And and they're walking around. They even have uh, eel-like, mermaid-like gods, or like in ancient times.
Mm.
Why would they, you know, why would they think that? Why would they make those faces like animals and beings like that? Well, what if they're aliens and that's how they look like?
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
throw that out there. People are gonna say, Douglas, that's crazy, that's foolish. But I go, okay, well, maybe it's not. Maybe there are animals, sorry, those Egyptian gods that have human bodies, but they have strange looking heads. Maybe those heads are helmets.
Oh,
They could
yeah.
be also space gear that they're wearing. And every so often, if you look, there's a fellow going around all the temples in Egypt now. I think he's on TikTok, and he's going into the ancient temples and he's showing there's a person riding a giant parrot
Oh,
with
yeah.
a
Yeah.
saddle and whatever. And you go, why would they put that out there? Then he's showing carvings in with Lord Shiva with flares or propellers behind them or flames coming out the bottom, and also that their feet has a strap across them as they're in this container that has an oval, one hand on the side and one hand inside. And he makes a pretty good point of this was some sort of craft that these beings were in.
Mm.
So I'm throwing that out there to our curious audience and saying, okay, let's have a look at this. Does that make sense? Well, from a certain perspective, if somebody's going to come visit us, it does. But again, you know, trust but verify. you know,
I always thought that, if they, maybe the book is getting us ready in a certain strange way, because if they don't look like spiders, we're going to be greatly relieved. So,
well,
you always say, Doug, that this world is a world of dualities. So, on the one hand, we're getting ready for off world communication. The other side of that, does that have to do with the wildfires and floods and heat domes and the earth cleansing itself? Is that the other part, the other side of the same coin?
I don't think it's the same part of preparation. I think it's, as I've stated or predicted years ago, first off in CFRB in Toronto radio, that the Earth is heating up from the inside.
Hmm.
And the reason it's heating up from the inside is because the core of the Earth is rotating at a different speed than the crust. And for years and years, decades, we have been taking the oil and gas out of the crust. We have been taking mining, taking things out of the earth itself. We've been, uh, you know, um, I guess you could say, cannibalizing the planet. And then,
Right.
of course, as we went through the murky industrial time, we put pollutants in the air. So the world has its own consciousness. And it's like we've been nibbling at it for decades, and
Hmm.
we've really been treating it pretty poorly. There are religious groups on the planet who work with nature. They don't have electricity. They don't use gasoline engines. Everything is horsepower, if you will, animal power, and they're back to nature. They're self-sufficient. They don't need electricity. Everybody listening to my voice now, if electricity went poof right now, what would you do? Your phone would only work for a couple of hours and you wouldn't be able to recharge it. And then you would be in the darkness forever. But think about it. What would it be like to live without electricity?
Hmm.
Well, I propose a test. Put your cell phone down, turn off all the lights, turn off the furnace, and then say, how am I going to live? Okay, first thing is, how am I going to cook my food? The
Hmm.
refrigerator isn't
Yeah.
supposed to work anymore, remember? So
Hmm.
you're out of luck. Well, maybe if you're smart, you'll have some canned foods because we're predicting you should have 4, 6, 8, 10 months, maybe longer
Sure.
of food supply. But anyway, if you didn't have electricity, where would you be? And so
Sure.
we are codependent, and no matter what you say, if we disagree with different things, we're still using gasoline engines. We're still using electricity. We're still using natural gas. We're still consuming the planet and its resources. Well, somebody's got to pay the piper, as they say. So I'm not trying to say gloom and doom. I'm trying to say reusable energy like electrical generation, battery powered, and recharge the batteries. That's the way to go. But oh my God, we got lead in those batteries, or we have other metals in those batteries. Where'd that come from? The ground. So, not to go on about it, it's a matter of saying, can we get by?
Hmm.
I don't know. Can we live with nature? Well, that's how to survive. The North American tribes lived on the land. They hunted the buffalo. They lived on what was provided, a renewable, sustainable resource or resources,
Right.
as did the clans in Scotland, as did the tribes in Europe, as did the legions in Roman times and all over the world, villages here and there. So, I don't want to sound like an old man preaching, but the way to get around this is to be prepared and being able to say, how do I get off the grid? How do
Hmm.
I have my own sanitary system, my own water supply, my own food storage? And can I survive that way?
Hmm.
Well, first thing, there goes the internet.
Oh no.
I don't think I don't think it's possible. Probable, hopefully, but not impossible otherwise. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the Soul Report live show, and we all our wonderful guests out there wouldn't be able to get a hold of us on social media. So,
And we don't have enough carrier pigeons to supply them. Well, thanks, Doug. After a short break, we'll be back with mysteries and the unexplained. So, the question is Akashic Records. What are they? How do they work? And how can we access them?
well, the Akashic Records, the Akashic field, there's been study, there's been books written, and basically it says in the good book that God records everything. Uh, and you can think about that as kind of in your own mind, you have this soul memory device that remembers everything you've said, every thought you've had, every deed you've done. And it's recorded in the great tree of knowledge, if you will. And so the Akashic Records are basically, in the simplest term, it's a library.
Hmm.
And every book in that library is a life that you've lived and recorded from your birth to your passing. And then the book is put up on a shelf, and you get to go and have another go at it and write another book. I know somebody's thinking right now, but the library, that's a lot of books. Yeah, you live for eternity. The soul is immortal. So you just keep going back. Sometime you write a thick book with lots of life and good works. And sometimes you go back with one of those little thin books where you haven't done too much. You spent a whole life somewhere incarcerated or in a monastery somewhere or someplace where not much happened your whole life. Okay, does it matter? No, it's up to you. It's what you do. And as you continue to progress, the books in the library fill up the shelves. And the theory I have and the way I present it is that if you have a whole wall of books representing all the experiences you've had, all those experiences on the shelf are now coexisting at the exact time, same time. And so you can take a book from the third shelf, read it, put it back. You can take a book from the second shelf and read it. You can reach down near the floor and take a book and read it. And those are all your different lifetimes that you've lived one after the other. Now they're all in the shelf in the library, so now they're existing all at the same time.
Hmm.
And that's what the book of life is all about, that you are there writing these books so that in your after lives, at the time when you're wanting to look back and see your spiritual journey, all of the books are there. Everything
Hmm.
you've done, everything you've thought, everything that you're happy and proud about, and everything that you're not happy or proud about. But from that perspective, a spiritual perspective, there's no guilt, there's no emotional equanimity, no judgment. It
Hmm.
just, that's what you did. And so, from all those books, big or small, good or not so good, you have learned who and what you are. And so, in every life, if you can live a life without regrets, you've lived a really, really good life.
Hmm.
And if you have regrets and you can forgive yourself, which is very hard to do, then you can make amends. Regret wipes up the karmic debt, as they say, and you can make amends for what you've done. It doesn't, in your own mind, completely justify and, you know, what's the word, sort of forgiving yourself doesn't make it that you're not exonerated in your own mind, but you try to do the best you can. And that,
Hmm.
at least that makes up for it in the universe. So the Akashic Records are a place of recording what you've done, what you've learned. And then, of course, the idea of cause and effect comes into it. So, you're up on the shelf on the upper 11 o'clock position, and now you got to go down at the 4 o'clock position and live a counter life to the one that you've lived at the 11 o'clock position. So, on balance, you can experience from one extreme to another, like a coin. When
Hmm.
you have a coin in your hand, how many sides does it have? Well, most people say two, and I say, no, it has three.
Right.
It has the heads and the tails and has the rim.
Huh.
Okay. Then it has two more sides, inside and outside. Oh my God, we're up to five. I can, we can keep on going on like the good side, the bad side, the top side, the bottom side. And we can keep layering all these different sides on a coin that when you look at it, you can only see one side
Hmm.
at a time. But the spiritual understanding looks at all the sides, including the inside and the outside and all the other sides we've talked about. And so, what does that make us? Really, really complicated beings.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that's why we can't understand the workings of our soul, where our soul will come into the world and choose a miserable, hurtful, difficult life and live that one. Why did it do that? For the benefit of all the other souls that came to look after it, or take care of it, or protect it, or to learn from it, to
Right.
learn compassion. That poor soul that we would call it was really a masterful soul, an angel in disguise. And so, from a finite mind, we can't understand that. But from what I've just said, it's a glimpse of how the spiritual world works.
Hmm.
And if we follow that hunch, that direction, and the understanding that there's no injustices in the world, everybody receives exactly that they've given forth. Exactly, not one iota more or less. Then it makes sense when you see somebody as being a bully, harmful, committed hideous crimes, you can stand back and say, oh my God, pity them. Look what they're going to do to themselves in the future. And to some degree, it can remove that desire to strike back like an animal instinct and be more wise and of a spiritual realm and understand this person is engaging in something that's very difficult for themselves. And you can see the balance at work. The point to be all this thing of learning the Akashic Records is keeping track of what you've done so that at some point in what we would call the future, you're going to be able to say, look, I graduated. I went through all the experiences, and here's the record. It's like going to the IRS. See, I've got the receipts. I paid my dues. Anyway, that's a pretty simplistic way to do it, but think of it as the tree of life, as a library, and you're going through existences one after the other, sometimes not concurrent. I mean, you don't live like one life and immediately follow another one. You might take a break and be out in space for a thousand Earth years somewhere else doing something else before you come back and say, oh, well, okay, I'll take a deep breath, hold my nose, and jump in and hope for the best. And here you end up in the world again, going through this world of duality, experiencing all these emotions. By the way, I'm told or led to believe that this is the only place that emotions are felt other than the one constant emotion throughout the universe, and that's love.
Wow.
So while you're here, you're getting to try out these different emotions, and that might be what life is all about.
Oof. Just wrapping this section up, I remember having a dream where I saw these people in a kind of a audience like setting, about 30 or 40 of them, and they were watching on a screen an experience happening here. They were watching a human being happening, and they were cheering him on. And I thought to myself, are they learning from our experiences? Can they do that? Do we learn from each other's Akashic records?
Absolutely. And I have a simplistic explanation or um, description. Have you ever seen teenagers going out for driving lessons?
Hmm.
There's the
Oh, sure.
instructor on the passenger side with a secondary wheel in his hand, steering wheel and pedals. And then there's the student driver who has the real steering wheel and the pedals in front of him or her. And then there's two kids in the back. They're watching the one student drive the car while the instructor is giving the instructions. And they're sitting in the back looking over the shoulder of the instructor and the student. And what are they doing? They are learning. They're engaged. They're watching. They're listening to the instructor. And the poor student is steering and trying to put the selector on or step on the brake when they meant the gas. And oh my God, if you had like a gear shift where you had a clutch and a gear shift, oh my God, complications. So in the back, they're observing and they're learning. It's kind of like people playing solitaire, the card game. And the people watching, they can see the moves better than the person playing the game. You ever notice that? There's, oh, don't do that. Put the three over there. Oh, look, there's a, they're playing the game because they're observing, which is a much better way of observing and learning than it is to be, oh my God, what am I going to do next? Thinking and not concentrating on the event. So that simplistic example of how to learn from other people's experiences is what we do if you're spiritually aware. If you're not a stubborn, block-headed Capricorn like perhaps somebody I know, you know, you don't need to do it your way all the time. Frank Sinatra sort of had it right, but my way. I live life my way. You do anyway, but it's better to be proactive and to enjoy your life and not sitting back, because sooner or later those kids in the back, from observing, they're itching to get their hands on the steering wheel. You have
Mm,
to have the experiences of life. You have to know what it's like.
mm,
Otherwise, it's only theory.
right,
Otherwise, you're
right.
living your life through vicariously through somebody else. You're sort of like, piggybacking on somebody else. That's not it. You want to get in there and you want to engage. And if you do so, then you begin to learn more and more about the one most important power you have that can get you to wherever you want it to go, to allow you to achieve any success in your life.
Mm,
And that's called willpower. The power within. I had a CD about that a long time ago before Tony Robbins. I call it willpower, the power within. The power within you is so simple, but it's one that you have to apply. Willpower gets you to go anywhere and do anything you want, and it needs a pinch of tenacity,
mm,
and another pinch, and another pinch, and another pinch. Tenacity, tenacity, tenacity is the staircase to success, as some famous
okay.
man once said. So, if you will yourself to be successful in whatever way you determine that to be, you will be. But most people run away. They get to the threshold, they're doubtful. They listen to somebody else, and there will always be somebody at the threshold at the last minute that will tell you, you can't do that. And poof, you'll give up. Well, successful people go, yeah, watch, just watch me, you'll see me.
Mm,
But always, it's a rule, it's a law. Somebody wrote it into I think it was an amendment, when you're about to be successful, someone must come up and tell you you can't do it
right,
or point
right.
out all the reasons why it'll never work. They don't know. They haven't had the vision. And
Mm,
that's why visionaries are always successful, because they are motivated, they are driven, which means they don't believe anybody else that says you can't do that. They don't give their authority away to some stranger or some naysayer. And that's what's so incorrect right now. If you want to be successful, my friends, pick and choose what you want to be. Don't tell anybody, because then they won't be able to talk you out of it. And
mhm,
go and do it, and do not stop. Monday's a great day. Tuesday's a great day. Wednesday's a great day. Thursday, you fell on your face. Okay. Friday, you pick yourself up and you keep going. Saturday's a good day. Sunday's a good day. Monday, you fell on your face. Every time you fall down, you learn how not to fall down, how to avoid the pitfalls, and how to avoid the people who will dissuade you, who will attempt to talk you out of things, who will tell you in a all-powerful, sort of knowing way that they're right and you're wrong. Well, nobody should tell you how to live your life. And most successful people I've met, and I've met many, have all had a bad Wednesday and a bad Monday, and they've had friends that try to talk them out of it. And what they
mm.
did was, thank you very much, bye. And they kept going every single time. If you have a goal in your mind and you have the willpower to make it happen, you will find a way. If you were parachuted down into a jungle, into a forest, and you wanted to get home, would you sit down and cry and die? Would you
I would.
sit down there and mope and say, oh my God, I don't know where I am. I better die. No, you'd climb a tree and try to find out where you are.
Sure.
You would walk up a big hill and see where you are. You'd look at the stars or the moon and say, oh, that's west, this is east. You look at the sun, and then you would think, okay, we're flying this way, so I must have to go back that way to get to where I started from. Or we were flying almost to the end of the flight. I just need to keep going in a straight line. Anyway, that's the 101. I get very persuasive about that because I've had many people tell me in my life, you can't do that. When I was in my 20s, I told some relatives, I'm going to buy a farm. I'm going to be successful before I'm 30. At that time, my house cost $17,000, and to buy a farm, I was like, oh my God, $150,000. I did it. I did it.
Hmm.
I stayed there for 10 years, and then we had to move back to the city for my children's needs, especially Sherry, my daughter, who needed some surgery. And so we moved back to where we are now. But that was like, wow, 1988, we moved away from the farm, and so here we are back in the, I'm a city boy trying to be a country boy because my grandparents, both grandparents were country people. I love the country. I love horses. I love animals. But the point being is, when I told people I was going to do that, they were, you can't do that. Do you know how much that cost? Yeah, about $200,000, And so remember, the people that you're talking to, unless they've done it themselves, they don't know what you're talking about.
Hmm. Hmm.
The only people that you should listen to are people that have done it or been involved in it. Then they know. But if you talk to somebody else, it's like if you say you're going to have a truck driving business and you're talking to somebody that cleans houses, they don't know about trucks. How could they possibly advise you? But they will. They say,
Exactly.
I wouldn't do that. You're out in that snow all the time. And I must have a better job here, inside cleaning the floors and oh my God. So if one thing for our listeners tonight in this regard is that if you want to get somewhere, willpower is the fuel that you have inside. It needs the support of tenacity. And tenacity means just being a blockhead, sticking to it. Don't let anybody deter you. And you'll find if you read biographies or autobiographies of
Right.
successful people,
Yeah.
they all had the same thing. They made mistakes. They almost came up to a point of giving up. They came from humble beginnings. They had people that helped them up the ladder because the
Hmm.
angels will show up as much as the naysayers. And so that's it. The willpower is the power within, sprinkled with uh, a little bit of tenacity for spice.
It's interesting, just to wrap this up in my own experience, when I've had ideas, when I went to people who were successful, they were very supportive. When I went to people who were not successful, they had no clue. So the question for the audience is, have you ever had any experience you couldn't explain? Something mystical, paranormal, or spiritually profound? You can share that in the comments or you can email us and we might feature it in a next show. And now for our favorite part called the open mic, where we get a chance to interact with you, our sole audience. And we have some interesting questions here tonight. First one is from This Too Shall Pass. And the question is, I'm having a little difficulty here. Aha. Okay, here we go.
Where Jack is putting our questions up for us, and we
Yep.
appreciate Jack interacting with the audience. He's
Some who
produced-
first learn the truth of the world find their minds focusing only on the negative. How do they break out of that loop and find the solutions beyond the problems?
They looked up. When you look down at your feet, all you see is the sidewalk. And you see the gum on the sidewalk. You see the cracks in the sidewalk. You see the faults in the sidewalk. And when you pray for spiritual power, it's like rain coming down. Where does the rain go first? Into the cracks, into the negative aspects, into the faults. So when you want to be successful and you're looking for the spiritual power, look up. Don't look
Sure.
down at your feet. When you look up, you see a whole lot more. You see the cosmos, the universe. Stay awake at night and look up at the night sky and say, oh my God, look at all those opportunities. Look at that
Uh,
universe. Wow. And so when you start out, of course, you're looking at, negativity because when you were born, what was the very first thing that happened to most of us? There you were hanging upside down and somebody whacked you on the backside. Welcome to the world. I know for the people who are gone through the natural birthing, and water births and stuff like that never happened. But in my day, that's how they made you cry, so you would spew out the phlegm and the fluid out of your lungs. That's why you're upside down, draining after you were brand new born. But what the heck? There you were in mommy's tummy, so nice, so warm, and all of a sudden your head hurts, your body hurts, somebody's yanking on you, and you pop out and bang, welcome to the world. Well, okay, I might be overdoing it. I apologize. But the point I'm making is this, that the world's full of negativity. And if you look for negativity, guess what you're going to find? Negativity. When you're in the forest, what do you see? Darkness, the trees. But if you look between the trees, you'll see some light. And you follow, you go towards the light. And then the trees start to thin out, and you see more light. And eventually you're out of the forest and you're on the path in green pastures. So the world is, I'm going to confess this, that when I was younger and naive, I still am naive, I guess, I used to think that the world was full of three-quarters good people and one-quarter bad people. Those are the people that are bullies and carry on bad stuff and do scams and stuff like that. Well, I'm now got that reversed. I think the world is full of three-quarters people who are showing you their spiritual poverty, the people who are in darkness. And one quarter of the world is people who are in light. Now, don't send me nasty emails and tell me I'm right or wrong, because I'm going to say I could be right, I could be wrong. But if you look at it from that perspective, then you will beware people you meet for the first time. You will take your time to get to know the person or people you're dealing with. You will rely upon your own good judgment. That's called wisdom. You will not allow people to dissuade you or take advantage of you or tell you things that are too good to be true, because you'll know that they're not. And so you will become your own person. And if you make a mistake, so be it. But if you make a mistake because somebody else led you astray, shame on you. You ought to know better. And as you get older, you begin to say, okay, show me the good people. And when you find that person, make them your friend and keep testing them. If they are your friend, we'll forgive each other when we make mistakes, but we'll still be friends. And if you can find that many people, 5 in your life, that are your good friends, you're a rich person. But always in your life, people will come into your life for short periods of time that will show you the way, and you can trust them because they care for you. They're there for you. Call it karmic, call it soul friends, call it soul connection, whatever you like, but they're there to help you on your way. So when you first come into the world and you see negativity, it's okay. It's the way the world is, but you get the chance to find the light. And so just be wise. Don't believe everything you hear, especially on the
mm,
internet. But you can believe
mm.
everything you hear on the Soul Report Live. I guarantee that. Next question.
This is from Thomas James. Without any memory of a prior life, is there a way to be certain of life continuance and of life beyond the physical, and or what's your best insight or inquiry that can lead to certainty?
Okay, well, first of all, if you believe in a soul, then what I'm about to say makes sense. If you don't believe you have a soul and you only live once, so be it. I don't want to talk to you. But the point is that you will never know for certainty by people telling you. You will know from certainty when you have an experience of recalling a previous time. And the easiest way that is to happen by recording your dreams. When you're sleeping at night, you're dreaming, you're visiting other dimensions. Visitations are happening between people who are discarnate. You are looking forward in time. That's called clairvoyance. You're looking back in time, and that's called reference. And you might see yourself dressed as a Roman soldier one day. And you're riding a chariot too fast, and you fall off, and you break your back. Lesson back then was don't take silly chances, don't go too fast. In this life, now you're driving a motorcycle and you're driving too fast. And the dream is trying to show you, remember back in the old days when you were driving the equivalent of a motorcycle, a chariot? Slow down. So you'll have instances like that. And then you will have a recall of a previous time, should you look for it. Remember, what you look for, you will find. And as you go through the search for your soul and your memories, you will, through your meditation or through a dream, have an experience. And the evidence of that in a neophyte way is that you ever see children who are mechanically inclined, or they can play musical instruments when they're 3 years old as if they're masters, or they can create works of art when they're teeny tiny? Where did that come from? They're remembering their previous lifetime. They don't necessarily remember where in the world they were, what their name was, and what they ate every breakfast morning, but they do remember on how to work with clay or carve or paint or do something extraordinary, like automatically know how to fix vehicles, or they know about how to grow plants, or they just know about structures. You know, like, oh, 2x4s in the ceiling, there should be thicker ones up there, Daddy. You know, you need 2x6s. So that starts the ball rolling with your investigation. And then you will come for certain because you will find your way inside and you will know that you had a lifetime as someone in Arabia, someone in Rome, someone in Africa. And you'll know for certain because it will be a real experience. And then you'll begin to see, I shouldn't be prejudiced because if I don't like a certain kind of person, that means, next lifetime I'm going over there to find out all about that kind of race of people. And you
wow.
sort of temper your understanding of that. But I'm trying to get to the point of for certain. That only comes from you by looking within. But you'll see glimpses of it all the time. And then you'll read books about, I think there's a book out where somebody has done research over 25,000 past near-death experiences,
Yeah.
or where children have remembered their previous experiences. They've gone there and they have identified the family and said, you were my mommy. You know, and they're talking to a person who's a grandparent now, and you were my brother, and we used to live down the street, and the man around the corner is the one that hit me over the head with a stick and killed me. And you know, and you go like, wow, they making this up? No. And then
No.
you'll have that point in time where you'll come to that inner knowledge of yourself, and you'll just know that you had this experience because you'll just feel right about it. You'll know it. You'll know what's going on, and you will believe it. But you got to look for the little bits of evidence. There was something else I was going to say, but I just slipped away from me now. But it's not impossible not to know for certain. It is possible to know for certain, but it's an inward journey. You can go to a past life recall and do that. That's another way of having somebody regress you back to a previous lifetime. Anyway,
I think it was Dr. Alexander who wrote Proof of Heaven. He said, just consider consciousness. He said that's a miracle in itself. Also, there's a father, I think his name is Spitzer. I think he's a Roman Catholic Church, and he discussed something like 20 million near-death experiences that were fully confirmed. You can look him up on the web. He's on the web as well. We have a nice side note here from Carolyn Corsi. Great message about hope for all of us as we navigate our own experience with the cross. Thank you, Carolyn. We also have a question from Larry Cruz. I'm having a little trouble understanding this. So Douglas is secretly recording for truth karmically wrong. If it's to protect oneself from harm or expose deceit, is it still negative or does intention make it spiritually justified? Can you
well,
answer them?
okay. It's kind of like looking at what the image I have in my head right now. And that's, by the way, my friends, As you can see, we're not prepared for these questions, and the things I'm saying are occurring to me intuitively right now, or images are popping in my head. So what I'm looking at is that Larry's question, I see a basket of fruit. And in the fruit, some of the fruit is bruised and some is rotten. So you don't throw out the whole basket of fruit. You pick out the bruised ones and the rotten ones and throw them out, discard them. So to keep the integrity of the basket. So if I understand the question is, yeah, you've got a lot of bad stuff inside you. That's true. You don't know necessarily that it's bad. I mean, if you're a little kid and you go around punching other little kids in the nose and you don't know it's bad, you're going to keep doing it because you think it's funny. Until another little kid comes up and punches you in the nose. And then you go, that hurt. Oh my God. And then you never punch another kid in the nose thereafter because now you've been edumacated. Edumacated. Okay. So the long and the short, if I understand Larry's question, is yeah, you've got good and bad inside, but the morality, the decision to choose good over not good, that's the spirit. That's your evolution. And that's the purpose. But you still have to go and sort out the bruises, sort out the bad stuff, discard it. If that's the question, that's the image I have.
Okay. We have another question from Thomas James. Is the entire physical universe conscious?
Yes, absolutely so. Everything has a consciousness. Even this little yellow marker here, it has a consciousness unto itself. And that's why you should always bless everything you have. And by that, I mean, thank you, yellow marker. I really appreciate you serving me. I thank you. To the shovel you use in the garden, to your automobile, put your hand on it and bless it and say you are grateful. Because everything has, at the subatomic level, it has a consciousness. It's moving. Everything. This marker is not solid. It's made out of atoms. Oh, Douglas, but it's solid. Listen, you hit it on your head, it hurts. Yes, but it's made up of spaces between the electrons that are like the size of football fields if you were in comparison of the orbits they have.
Sure.
And so you come to that understanding that, the previous question, I think I was going to add that everything's an illusion. The way we think makes it real. And so the same as this is a way of understanding that the universe has its consciousness. The universe has a consciousness. The earth has has a consciousness. Everything. But understand this, my friends. Every level of being is oblivious to the consciousness of the others.
Right.
Insects don't think like we do. I'm very careful that I don't step on insects when I get out of my car and walk into my house. I'm not oblivious and squash them as I walk into the house. I actually avoid them if I can.
Yeah,
If I have a fly in the house, I'll open the door and try to scoot them out the door rather than take a newspaper and whack them or fly swatter. So if you are in harmony with that consciousness, you do those things. And so you respect the different worlds or dimensions that coexist with us. And they are aware of us. We're not so aware of them. But one of the things that comes to my mind is just before there's an earthquake or there's a tsunami, particularly a tsunami, what do the animals do and the insects? You'll see them all climbing up to higher ground hours or days before the tsunami hits.
Yeah.
What do you see humans doing? Oh, look, the water went out. Let's go down and walk on the ocean floor there.
Free
Oh,
fish.
here it's coming back. Who's smarter? The little spiders climbing up the hill or the little people who are dumb? Anyway, that's just human nature. Like sign says on a bench, wet paint. What happens? Touch. Oh, look, I got paint on my fingers. It really was wet. Anyway, human nature. Go ahead. Next question.
We have a nice comment from a Celtic seer. Hello, Les Hubert. Hello, Dr. Douglas James.
Hello.
Nice to see you as well. Question from Shelley Smith. What is going on at Yellowstone?
I don't know. I'm not there. A
Oh,
little
boy.
more. If we're
Well, in other words,
referring,
there's a massive volcano there, and she was wondering what's happening with this massive. It's supposed to be the largest in the planet.
yeah, it's cooking. It's going to blow. Yeah. I had a vision of it where soot or volcanic ash is going to go right across the country. People on the East Coast in Canada, anyway, they're going to, well, at least towards Niagara Falls, they're wondering, gee whiz, it's summertime. Where's all this gray snow coming from? So it's going to blow. It's going to stop traffic. All the highways, the trucks won't be able to go from the south to the north, carrying fruits and vegetables and goods. And there'll be a heat wave, like a volcanic wave that'll come across the planet. I saw that. And airplanes won't be able to fly.
Oh, boy.
When's it going to happen? I don't know, and I wouldn't tell you if I did because I could be wrong and I don't want to scare anybody.
Sure.
I haven't had an exact date, but I've seen it coming. It will happen in my lifetime.
Oh, boy.
Well, be prepared. Be prepared.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've been putting away the canned goods. Another question from Thomas James. Is there a way to progressively learn how to access the Akashic Records, and how does the information occur where it can be useful with our current challenges?
Well, first of all, irrespective of meditations, past life recall, number one, don't try. You know, if you try, you get that, see, you get that little wrinkles between your eyes, forget it. You're done. You're concentrating too much, okay? So number one, don't try. It will happen. Number two is if you have the same problem in your life coming up over and over and over again, that's a karmic lesson. Now, karmic lessons, we have one major one every 10 years. So don't get out of sorts, my friends. Just one major lesson every 10 years. You have lots of little ones along the way. Relationships, dealing with each other, being honest. You know, you see a wallet on the road and you go, oh my God, look, it's got money in it. Do I keep it or do I find the owner? Well, you find the owner because if you keep the money, then someday in the future, somebody's going to keep your wallet when you lose it. But since you gave it back, somebody will give you back your wallet or passport or something like that that is similar. Guarantee that's going to happen. Not that you're going to lose something, but that when it comes to the time, you'll get it back. So number one is to have the same problem over and over again. And people do that and they say, oh my God, what's the matter with me? Every time I go to a job, there's always a big bully there and they bully me. And I quit. I go get another job. I go, wait a minute, you ran away. This is coming up more than 3 or 4 times. Yes. Well, what's the one thing you're avoiding? Well, I guess I should have went in and spoke to the manager and told the manager that what was happening. But I don't want the bully to beat me up and I don't want to get anybody in trouble. And I'm not a tattletale. I said, hold it. But you're the one getting bullied. And the one thing you're not doing, the one thing you're avoiding is the lesson. So if you want to stop a bully, you don't let them continue bullying you because they're going to bully the next person and the next person. Maybe you're the one in the chain that can stop the bullying by going to the authorities after documenting, tape recording, getting witnesses or doing something that you don't look like you're just making it up. Everybody knows the person's a bully in the plant anyway. And you go in there and you flop it down and say, I don't have to live this way. I came here to work. And if I quit, it's going to cost you money to get somebody else in here to hire them and replace me. And I'm going to be without income for a month until I find another job. So I want you to do something about it. Usually the boss comes in and says, thank you very much. They know he or she's a bully. They just need evidence and you provide it. So you become the hero, but of course the bully's going to retaliate, be mad at you, scream at you, or holler at you. But for righteousness' sake, you stand still and they will back away. They always do. So karma is like that, a karmic lesson. If you have the same problem over and over again, you say, what is the one thing I don't want to do? I'm avoiding it. It's the least likely thing I want to do. Get right on it. That's the thing you need to do. And if you
Oh,
do it once, you know what? You'll never be bullied again, or the experience will never come back to you because it's a lesson.
ah,
Handled
all right.
and done. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You handled it and it's over. Guaranteed.
Interesting.
That make sense?
Thank you, Doug. Yeah. And our last question is from David Brenner. What are your thoughts on Ross Peterson? Will his readings be released? Besides the book, there isn't much out there. And he was your mentor.
He did, and he released a whole bunch of tapes. I think there were 14 or 28 of them, and they're still in circulation.
Oh, wow.
You can, some people have taken them and they've been a little greedy in putting out little snippets of it, but he had back in the day when you bought a cassette and it had like little tapes on two reels, I know we're talking now Stone Age stuff, but that was out there. I'm in contact with Zoe, Ross's daughter. I've been in contact with her, and I've had the opportunity to help her in the same way that he helped me.
Oh, wow.
And also is one of his elder sons. Brett. I've talked to him, and we're friends. I'm friends with his children, and he was my mentor. He was a man's man. He was a complicated fellow, and he had a very, very remarkable life in all the things that he did and situations he got in. But the one most important thing he did was to be able to tap into the universal consciousness and saved my daughter's life, Sherry, with giving a session about what was wrong with her
Mm.
when she was had difficulties in birth and was in an institution. No one on the planet could come up with the reason as to what happened to her and what to do for what happened to her, and that she would survive if we brought her home, and we did. And God bless my dear wife Karen, who's in heaven now. She took care of Sherry and took on the burden. And I'm a man. What do I know? I tried to do my best, but the lion's share of taking care of Sherry came to Karen's on Karen's responsibility, and she loved Sherry and took care of her until Sherry passed away when she was 38 years of age, based on complications that happened to her when she was in the institution.
Oh,
So,
wow.
what happened to Ross Peterson? Well, he taught me I'm here to carry on, and I've taught other people who are out there and they're carrying on. And through Ross Peterson, I met my spiritual healing mentor, Reverend Alec Holmes, and Carol Young, who taught me about recalling past lives and things like that. And there were some other people, Andrew, I can't remember his last name, and his dear wife, who showed me yoga and different things. I don't look like I'm a yoga instructor, I know, but I tried it when I was younger, and there were various teachers or somebody else that came by and talked about numerology and different things, and Ken and Dixie Winder, Ken Dixon and Wendy, there were teachers there too at this Ross Peterson School in Upper Michigan, Laughing Gull Point, I think it was. So I know when you say released his information, this is the point. It was already the readings he did. He didn't keep copies of them, but he did research readings. And as far as I know, I'm trying to look at the page in my mind. I think there was six on a page. So it'd be 6, 12, and 12 more. So there was like 24 of them. And they're out there somewhere.
Interesting. Well, thanks again, Doug, for a great podcast. Anything you want to say to wrap up the show?
Well, as always, my friends, as Les and I are here at your service, we're here to help you wake up. We have our podcast called The Wake Up. It's an audio podcast as well. And we have those, as I've alluded to, the Global Village interviews with some pretty famous people. Um, you know, we're here for you. I want to thank everyone that's taken the time to send in a question to our producer, Jack Balick, who's here tonight, managing to keep this broadcast going. And we're looking forward, if tonight's show has resonated with you, we would ask you to take a moment and be part of our growing community by liking or subscribing to our show Click the bell so you'll get a notice that when we're doing our next show, and that'll be next Wednesday, next Monday night rather, at the same time. And we look forward to having you follow us on Facebook and Instagram and X and any other social media that we might be found on. Behind the scenes, we ask you to be part of our community. You can locate us at Douglas James Cottrell and at The Soul Report for updates. Please share this episode with someone who needs it. And remember, your soul has a purpose, your mind has power, and your voice matters. You're important to us, and we're here for you. Until next time, stay conscious, stay connected, keep listening to the voices of your soul within. And remember, you have the power to change your life right this moment. You have willpower. Choose what you want to do, and you will become it with tenacity and a little bit of secrecy mixed in. Don't tell it to everybody. Don't blab your intentions. Just go ahead and do it. And please, please, please don't stop. I want to thank Jack Balick tonight. He's behind the scenes in the studio.
Our wizard. Yep.
To you too, Les, for helping us here.
My
And
pleasure.
Jack is producing a show. And so once again, stay connected with us. We're here for you. And Les and I, we just love what we do. And so we'd love to have you here with us. Right, Les?
That's correct. Well, thank you again, Doug. And we will see you next Monday, same time, same channel.
Uh,
Good night now.
Good night, everybody. Peace and prosperity.
Did you know that Dr. Douglas James Cottrell has several other weekly channels where you can participate? Check out his Sunday International Spiritual Healing Service on Zoom. And you might also enjoy the Wake Up Podcast, exploring human consciousness, awareness, and intuition with Dr. Douglas and co-host Les Hubert. Just go to douglasjamescottrell.com and select the link to the material of most interest to you.